What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Mike Robinson, and this is another episode of You Guessed It. Yes, let's take a walk. I hope everybody had an awesome week. I definitely did, but as usual, it was a super blur. You know what I'm saying? I went to sleep on Sunday, woke up, it was Friday.
Friday.
So here we are. I'm glad you guys are safe and here with us. Tonight, I got count them, two awesome, amazing guests on the platform. One is somebody I consider a brother, a friend who I've known for at least 5+ years or more. You know what?
Yeah, 10, probably 13 years, over 13.
Like, yeah, we've known each other for a good minute. This is a good brother. He's a coach. He's a teacher. He's a mentor. He's a philanthropist, community, just a all around community advocate. And his name is Arthur Kelly. GQ is what they call him. And my other guest, they're both returning guests. They've been on before. My other guest, she is an entrepreneur, a businesswoman. She is also a community activist. She fills the certain needs of the community, and she just does what she does. And on top of all of that, she is hilarious. So her name is Miss Kendra Berry, and we're going to talk today about we're just going to chop it up today about some community stuff and some current event stuff, and just kind of bounce stuff off one another, and just like I said, just chop it up. For those of you who may not be familiar with Mr. Kelly or Mrs. Berry, I'm going to give them each a moment to kind of reintroduce themselves and give a little background to who they are and some of the things that they have going on. So with that being said, since Arthur, you're right to my right, I'll let you go first.
Well, I was always taught to be a gentleman, so I will let the ladies go first, Miss Kendra Berry, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I'm glad to be kicking it with the guys. I'm used to being the only girl. I got two brothers, okay? So I am used to being the only girl. My name is Kendra Berry. I am the owner of the Berry Center Homes and Family Services, where we work with individuals with intellectual disabilities and their families. I am also the owner of Creative You Coaching, where I do life coaching, a little business coaching, but more so a motivational coach for those who know that they have a gift, know that there's something creatively moving on the inside of them. They just don't know exactly how to go about it. And so since the last time I've seen you, Mike, I started a pilot program where I have 6 people, and I am helping them develop their business or either their nonprofit. And it has been going really well. It's been going really well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Just pulling out that creativity, getting them involved in the community, connecting them with the right resources to help push and further their business. I'm also in the process of writing a book. So, as well as my husband and I just celebrated the graduation of our youngest daughter from high school, and next month we're going to become grandparents. So,
Wow.
It's been busy.
Nice.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, see, that's why you definitely went first. Again, I just want to say thanks again, Mike, for the platform and the opportunity. I'm Arthur Kelly. I'm just a round the way guy who grew up in Newport News and went through the Newport News public school system, went off to Old Dominion University, and met my wife, and we settled down here in Chesapeake. And I've been very fortunate to worked for the state of Virginia at Old Dominion, and also for the past 13 years, I've been working with Access College Foundation here on the south side of Hampton Roads, and we help students get into college and get financial aid and scholarships and all things in between. In my spare time, I run a show with my brother, Kickin It with the Kellys. And the pandemic kind of set some things in order for me and changed my perspective on a lot of things. And we started this venture, and it's growing, and there are some more things to come. I am the father to Baylor and Blake, 9 and a 7-year-old, and I've been married for 13 years to my lovely wife, Akia. And also I coach, so coach basketball, and I'll be coaching my son in flag football this fall. So I'm excited for that. But again, I thank you for the opportunity, and I can't wait to see what we're talking about tonight.
Wow. So as you guys see, we have two amazing, multifaceted and diverse guests on here today. And so I am definitely excited to, start engaging with them. So like I said, we're going to be talking about just community as a whole, in addition to, as they relate to current events that have happened, here lately. Like we saw the whole Montgomery, Alabama situation, right?
Yeah.
Everybody saw that.
Right. And the interesting thing about that situation is that you can look at it a whole lot of different ways. You know what I'm saying? There are people who look at it as an unfortunate incident that possibly could have been avoided, something that, just didn't have to happen.
Yeah.
But then you have some people who are almost celebrating this thing because, it kind of showed unity amongst our people. And as I watched it, it was, Lord forgive me, it was kind of funny seeing how people seemed like they were coming out of thin air. People swimming in the water, people coming in on parachutes, and it's just like people was coming from everywhere. And but like I said, the reviews, if you will, have been mixed. So let's start with that. What were your thoughts when you saw the video, or did you see the video?
I saw the video.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts?
Initially, I was like, wow. And then it just went to it's funny because my husband and I kind of had this discussion. I think for our culture with certain things, we're just fed up with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe to a certain extent, that's why you saw that form of unity, because it was like in that setting, it was like enough is enough. And you just saw the rage just hit the fan all in that moment. But my mind, I was really trying to make sense of what was going on and the why behind it.
Right.
Because like I was telling my husband, I said, I definitely can understand being fed up with mistreatment, with discrimination, with disrespect and everything. But there has to be some form of a resolve, some kind of way without the violence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just like where and how.
Yeah. So to even go even a little further, I'm just going to speak about myself, and then as it relates to everything that went on in the Alabama brawl. And I've even seen some memes that have called it the sweet tea party. the Boston Massacre, the Alabama Massacre. It was everything. We can name it a lot of things. I want to say back during the pandemic, when the George Floyd incident happened, it prompted a lot of organizations and a lot of people to really take a step back and really look at what is going on in the world. Observable reality, right? We talk about it, we hear about it in the books and hear about it through the media, but we got to observe something that actually real happens in our lives on a daily basis, right? So after that, I posted something, and from that post, my CEO of my job actually saw it. And it was one of the things that led her to start our diversity, equity, and inclusion task force, which I'm the chair of it for my job now. It also prompted me to say, I got to get more involved in the community. So I signed up and I applied to become a board member for our Human Services Board in the city of Chesapeake. It prompted me to do something. And I believe, like Newton's third law, for every action, there's an equal or opposite reaction, right? So it prompted me to do something. So present day, the incident that happened in Alabama is also another eye opener on what really happens in our world when cameras are on, you know, and if we didn't have the cameras on it, we would not be able to, you know, the whole world needed to see this. And so I saw a community banding together to right a wrong. There was something wrong that happened in that situation, and that was a Black man was trying to do his job, and as a result of him doing his job, he got jumped. Well, the bystanders and the people that saw it saw something going on that was not right, and they reacted. And because of their reaction, we saw a group of people band together to right a wrong. Now, violence occurred and all that. That's the end, the ladder. But what the subject matter was that something should not have happened, and people wanted to say this should not have happened, and we're going to take matters in our own hands. Now, the result of that is, what if we as the Black community can do that on a bigger scale to say, let's band together to stop violence. Let's band together to come together to feed the homeless. Let's band together to do something positive in our community. Because what we saw was a band of brothers and sisters together, and they were together.
Yeah, and, they definitely were.
They were together. And hopefully that can just lead to more togetherness in our community.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah. When I watched the video and I saw just the melee, you know, everybody's, like you said, banding together to right this wrong or make this, you know, make this crooked straight, however you want to look at it. Like you said, you know, it's one of those things where, does it have to be something violent for us to band together to do something? Do we have to band together only when a fight breaks out, or you know, somebody's throwing punches, or can we actually come together and do something that's impactful, in a way that, you know, is an asset to, you know, whatever community, you know, you're in. So do you feel like this will be a catalyst for something, or do you think it'll just be another blip in history? Like, how do you see, put on your prophetic hat for a second, how do you see this impacting culture and community going forward?
My prayer is that people, especially young people, understand the seriousness of it.
Yeah.
Because afterwards, we saw so many memes. We saw t-shirts being made up with folding chairs on it. You saw people like they capitalized off of that. Like people are actually selling T-shirts like that,
Right.
or you walking around with jewelry with a folding chair on it, and that's not what that was about.
Mm-hmm.
So my mind just went to some won't even understand what the seriousness of it, or even like I said, what the rage behind it was, or why someone would maybe get fed up because you just get tired of being mistreated. So with it being somewhat played off as a joke, the message, the message of unity that was sent is going to be missed because it's made up as a joke.
Right.
And it's like we have to educate our young people because for me, violence is not always the way. Now, I think because of the population that I deal with, my mind went to what if it was a child out there or an individual there that had a disability that just happened to be there, and then something like that broke out? That's traumatizing for them.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many different after effects that could happen if we could just come together to learn how to resolve things. That's my biggest thing. I am definitely with the unity of our culture, of us speaking up for ourselves. But I just feel like it has to be a different way than for us to be seen as the violent ones, because they'll never look at the others as the violent people.
Yeah.
Right.
They'll say that they were just defending themselves, but our culture will be seen as the violent ones. That's just the way that they are, So
Wow.
that's the part that saddens me, is because that's like a stigma that it seems like we can never get away from. Nobody is thinking about they jumped this man and others didn't just stand by and watch them jump him. They intervened, and then it just ended up turning into something else.
Wow. Oh, wow. Kendra, you hit the nail on the head that we cannot lose the message, right? All right. Now, when you were just saying that, I think it's the revolution will not be televised. I can hear that. Well, yeah, it is going to be televised, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, right? Because the Boston Tea Party was actually real. It was a bunch of white people getting fed up with something that happened, and they threw all the tea. That is real. We have it's recorded history, right? The Boston Massacre is real. Crispit Addicts is real. These things actually happen. So the Alabama brawl, where actually the slave trade actually went on, and people were sold on that very pier and that dock and on that river. All of that is what Malcolm X, I think, talks about. The chickens come home to roost. And this actually has to stay in the forefront. Now, yes, capitalization is going to happen. People are going to sell and make mockery of it and everything like that. But keep reminding us about this day, about August 5th. We have to keep that date on our calendar, because something actually happened. And I hope that the message of there are entitled people thinking that they are above the law. All right. We have to keep that message in our face. We have to keep showing that Black people do come together to fight for a cause. That's what the civil rights movement was. So even though that Ron DeSantis is trying to whitewash history in Florida and everything like that, this stuff happens, and it has to be televised, and we have to keep talking about it. So if I say you got to sell some merchandise about it, keep selling it. Just keep it in the Black community. Just keep selling it. Just if you got to do it, you got to make some artwork. Keep doing it. Keep it in the Black community. Something has to happen with what happened on that day, but the message is that entitled people thought they can get away with something, but we did not let it happen.
And that's just that the message needs to be the message.
There we go.
And my thing is that I would want the message to be the message, and not just be seeing it, oh, we just got up into this, that's where we have to educate.
There we go.
That's the part. It's people perish because of lack of knowledge.
There we go.
They need to know. We need to know. We need to talk about the history of things. We need to talk about what happened during the civil rights movement. You have some young people now who is like, oh, that don't happen anymore. Well, you just saw it.
Yeah.
Right.
You literally just saw it.
Yeah.
But what you saw was people fed up and saying, we don't live in the 60s anymore. Get your tails wet.
Right.
But it's just, my biggest thing has been the message and people understanding what happened, not making a mockery of it. I think that's what disappoints me, is when it seems like it's being made a mockery of.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up an interesting point, Kendra, when you brought up, how youth see race relations in present day.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to a lot of kids. I have two kids of my own who are still kind of young and not really. I have a daughter that's 12 and a son that just turned 5. Mm-hmm. So they're not necessarily in the know on it quite yet. But I talk to a lot of youth at my church and different places like that, and you would be surprised at the apathetic viewpoints they have on slavery and civil rights movement, and because in their minds it's always been this way. Like
this way.
They've always been able to get Nintendo and PS5s and that type of thing. Twitch and Facebook, and Instagram and TikTok. Always, you know what I mean?
They looking at us like we the dumb ones.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that I think that there has to be an effort made to, like you said, educate them specifically, not just on what we saw, a few days ago, but just the whole, just from slavery on till now. And I think that, it's more than a coincidence that this happened in Montgomery, Alabama.
Exactly.
Exactly. Almost the epicenter of the civil rights movement. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think God works. God is a genius. He's a genius. You know what I mean? So,
but and it really does revolve around education. Like my mother-in-law is a retired teacher now, and the one thing that she did creatively in her room was keep Black history books. Mm-hmm. That wasn't something you saw in the other classrooms, and her kids came out with more knowledge. But those were like her books, because back in Rockford, they owned like one of the first African American bookstores in their city. So she just had all of these books, but I always admired her for making sure that they knew and they understood. Like our kids used to get upset with us because we made them watch Roots. Whenever it came on BET, all 5 of them sitting in the living room watching Roots.
You know what? I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have never seen Roots from
start to finish.
It's just certain things that I just cannot stomach. Like I
can understand that because I can't watch Django.
Yeah, and maybe I should kind of like force myself in certain respects to, whatever. But certain things like my wife loves The Color Purple. For some reason, I cannot. It's certain parts of that I cannot watch, particularly the part where the little girl's trying to go to school and the guy jumps her in the bushes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That I have a daughter, man. Like I can't, that's something that I just,
yeah. I totally understand that because I can't watch Django. Like when my husband is watching his favorite movies, I just come into the other room. Like I can't, that part,
Yeah.
I can't, but we did have our kids watch Roots. Whenever they saw the preview of it on BET, they be like, "Oh, we got homework." Oh, they were reading books then if they had seen it.
Well, I'm a movie connoisseur, so Rose, Amistad,
Yeah.
Django,
Yeah,
12 Years a
yeah,
Slave.
yeah.
All of these are very important for our culture. So if anybody can stomach to watch them, I definitely encourage that they do. If they don't want to watch, see, but a lot of what happened in all those stories is actually what really happened.
Right.
So, it's just saying that I don't want to see what actually happened. That's the mindset that I think some people I don't want to see what actually happened. It happened. And I think it's the quote is, history is best qualified to reward our research. So, we have to understand how we got to this point. We didn't just get to this point to where we're at to this, whatever happened in Alabama by happenstance.
Yeah.
There's reasonings and there's a history behind this stuff that we really have to talk about. And like y'all said, our kids, they grow up in the place they think everything is, my parents grew up, my mom went to a segregated elementary school, a segregated middle school, a segregated high school. It's not that far removed that black and white weren't together. So my mom was there. So we have to keep this in the forefront, and we have to tell our kids what actually happened and how we are here today. So
that's a fact. And my mom grew up in the Deep South.
Yeah.
And when they went to the doctor, they couldn't go upstairs. They had to go in the basement to see their doctor. When my mom was a child, she told me that they would walk home from school and the white farmers would shoot over their heads.
Wow.
So that to make them run. My aunt used to do laundry. Actually, my great aunt. She used to do laundry for this family. And the wife would purposely leave money out to try to entice my aunt to steal it. And my aunt, who is very outspoken, once she got tired of it, she confronted, this woman about this. And she ends up losing her job, So, like you said, it's really, really not that far removed. And when you go to certain places, even today, you feel like you are going back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel like you're going back in time. There are places where my mom grew up today that are still dirt roads. There's still places where they don't have cable. They have there's a stench in the air because they have what they call sulfur water.
Yeah.
And they have to boil the water before they do anything.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it's really, really, it's really, really crazy, but also very interesting as well.
Yep.
I grew up, my mom moved us to New York. So a lot of those things I didn't really experience myself. But when I got an opportunity to go there and learn, it just kind of blew my mind. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, but Mike, but even you moving to New York, the whole migration from the South to the North, there's a reason why there's a black people in the North. So we got to understand that, when the slave ship came over, they predominantly were in the South, right? But obviously when after the Civil War, a lot of blacks moved to the North. We have to talk about why they're there. And then we got to talk about why there are a lot of apartments and instead of homes, that we lived in, like Chicago and all these areas. A lot of people, we get to the now, but we have to understand why is it that way through redlining and all the things that happen. Levittown, where they would not sell homes to blacks in New York. So we got to talk about these things because we want to see why that notion of the other side of the railroad tracks It's a notion for that for a reason.
Right. Right.
So these are real things that actually happen, and they're affecting us to this day. That have to be talked about.
I actually saw an article, not like maybe a couple of days ago, where they did a list of cities or towns that you still should not be in after dark.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
that still exists.
Yeah.
And I used to, when I first moved to Virginia, I was single, and I would it was nothing for me to get on the road, go to New York, go to Florida, go here, go there. Now I have a totally different mindset when it comes to driving anywhere, because the last thing I would ever want to do is break down in one of these places.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
I think it goes back to like the different places, because I grew up in Surrey County. A lot of people don't know where Surrey is. I typically say, y'all remember where Michael Vick got in trouble with those dogs? That's Surrey County. But my family history was ownership. Like my great grandparents owned the land and the house. We still have it in the family. My grandfather, nothing past a sixth grade education, worked at Gwaltney's, Smithfield Foods now, and owned his home, so like that's what I saw. My grandmother began to talk about the history of her parents. They migrated from South Carolina to Virginia. And then she told me that my great grandfather was a sharecropper. And, how when he wanted to build his own home, he asked the sharecropper if he could stay there for another month until his house was finished. And he said, well, if you're not going to work my land, you can't stay here for free. So they ended up moving into their house before it was done because, he wouldn't allow them to stay there. But the Black unity in the community, my grandfather was a man, and my great grandfather was a man of his word. So family and friends, I guess you call it the barter system. Well, if you know how to do that, I'll do that for you. You do this for me. And that's how he ended up getting his home built.
Wow.
So with the house that he built, my parents live in right now. And my grandmother lived on the other side. And it's like a lot of land that will be inherited into our family. So I knew home ownership, and everybody in my family basically were entrepreneurs. Like my grandfather had gardens. So like my family, they didn't know about real suffering during that time in a small community because the unity was there. They spoke of racism, but it wasn't like Alabama style,
Right.
So I think it's all about like the places. And when I live over here in Hampton, I see it prevalent here. Like there's some places in Yorktown. A friend of my husband told him before, don't you ever go there without anybody, without me. And this was a Caucasian friend of his. He's like, don't you ever go in there. And that's literally down the street from my house.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still today.
Yeah. That's really wow. Wow. And when you look at things, especially being Black men, it seems to be that there has been kind of a concerted effort to try to like disconnect us from community, from family, from society as a whole. They lock us up and give us football numbers for things that they give slap on the wrist for others. It's very it can be very disconcerting sometimes as a man of color. Going forth, we're gonna bring it a little bit closer to home. Let's talk about our community, our present community, the one that we live in. Is there enough going on? And I mean, and what I mean by that is, positive initiatives for our youth, and not just for our youth, for any individual that's trying to make some type of mark on their community or on society as a whole, is there enough, or better yet, can there ever be enough opportunity afforded to our communities for it to become more fully functioning, if that makes sense?
Well, I want to say, Kendra, thank you so much for telling us your family history, the sharecropper, the entrepreneurial spirit, and everything comes full circle. We're talking about the Alabama and us banding together, and what is definitely in our DNA as the Black race. We've always come together,
Yeah.
and you even showed that with it within your family and the bartering system, and you do this, and that's how we were together. And it even talks about it in the scriptures, how they were all on one accord, right?
Yeah.
So if we can continue to do like your family did with their neighbors and friends, then everything is going to work out for us. So banding together for a cause or for something. As far as present day, as far as community, it pains me to see, the breakdown of the family. And a
Yeah.
community you can't have a community without a family,
That's true.
because there's no pipeline or no example to show how we stick together and how everything works.
Mhm.
Without the family, you have no community.
Yeah.
So until we get our homes right, and that comes from a lot of different angles, until we get our homes right, and what we allow in our homes and what we do, what we don't allow in our homes, how we send our kids out into the world, how we represent as a father and a mother, until we get those things correct, then the community is going to suffer and is going to continue to suffer, and we see it now, especially the Black community, where economically we fail in comparison to our counterparts, and that's for a lot of reasons. Yes, we can talk about that. But then, just even present day, if a lot of us just really start thinking how we spend our money, what we're spending our money on, if we're keeping it in our community, then we could change a lot. And my brother, co-host, shout out to Corinthian, he
Shout out
talks
to
about
Corinthian.
us getting on code. The Black community has to be on code. We have to have a specific standard on how we live, how we operate, and how we conduct business. When we get on code, everything works out. The Jewish community, they're on code.
Yeah.
The Asian community, they're on code.
code.
The Hispanic community, they're on code.
Definitely.
And just us, we seem to fail in that, and we have a lot of people doing it. And Kendra, I'm so happy that you Black business. I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you. Please send me all your information. So things like that. But we got to be on code, and until we are, our community is going to continue to suffer. But it starts with the family for me.
I agree with you 100%. And I want to tell you, when you first came on and said that you were excited about coaching your son's flag football team, I got excited. And I got excited because I have two younger brothers. They're in their 30s now. But when they got of age to start playing ball, my father coached them from pee-wee all the way to high school. He was their coach. And my father was one, when we talk about community, my father is a character, but I love him. I'm him with a wig on. But my dad has always been a football coach. And he was that football coach that would bring any kid that wanted to play football. He took them to practice. He bought them cleats. He took them home. He made sure they had their school stuff in, Coach White, Coach White. That's all you heard until now. These adult men are coming back to him saying, Coach White, I am where I am because you invested in me.
Yeah.
And he wasn't doing it to get any type of accolades or anything. It was just what was in him, to the point now where before my brother is a principal at a school in Richmond. But before he became a principal, he was a football coach. And then he brought my brother on to coach with him. And then they would bring my daddy on to coach on the side with them. My dad's in his 60s, and they call for him to come back and coach the middle school kids.
Wow.
So it's important. But my brothers learned that because my father has always been there.
Right.
And worked up with them. And my mother was there as co-pilot. She worked at a deli bakery, so she was bringing them snacks and food.
Yeah.
So it is effort, and it does start with the family. And to have that presence, because some of those kids grew up without fathers, but they still were able to have a father figure,
right,
because they saw it through my father. And that's so important. So when you said that you were excited about coaching your son's team, I really got excited because that means so much more than you'll ever know.
Right.
So if we want to see our communities thrive, that is where it begins. I don't care if you're just a parent there watching your kid on the sideline doing practice. That's where it begins. The three of us knew that there was nothing in life that we would do that our parents wouldn't be involved in. I'm 40 years old. If I'm doing anything, my dad is calling somebody saying, "No, I can't come. My daughter doing this." I'm 40 years old and he does
That's
that.
a fact.
wow.
That's just like, I will never take that from my mother and father. They have always done that. My whole family has always
Wow.
done that.
Yeah.
So that community and that unity, that family bond, and it's the same way on my husband's side of the family. Like, my kids won't do anything, and Nana and Papa or Aunt Amy and Courtney are going to be there. Everybody is going to be there. I have a sister-in-law that lives all the way in DC. If my kids said that they're doing something, she's
Yeah.
on the road and she's here. And that's so important.
Mike, before you say something, can I just say something real quick?
Please do.
That example was your family being on code. You used to hear that if you got in trouble out in the neighborhood, your neighbor could whoop you just like your parents.
Yeah.
Well, they were all on code. They understood.
Yeah.
They looked out for each other. We don't have that now. And we got to bring that back. And again, a lot of reasons why we don't have that, systematic reasons, but we have to bring it back. We are the only ones that can bring it back. We're the only ones that can do it. So like you said, father, even if you are not in the house, you and mom are not married, you have to be present in your child's life. Facts. You have to be. So that is to all the men. I think the scriptures even say, he that does not provide for their own house, he is worse than an infidel. And an infidel is an unbeliever. So you can't go to church and act like you holy and all this stuff if you're not taking care of your family.
Not taking care. That's a word by itself. You just preach right there.
So yeah. Oh, my bad, Mike. That's all I want to say.
No,
but
please. That's what this is all about. And then I want to kind of add a caveat to that. When we use the term taken care of, there's so many facets to that. It's not just buying school clothes. It's not just taking you on trips or whatever. It's actually being there to have a conversation. Hey, how are you? Yeah. What are you up to? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? How can I help you get to that? You know what I'm saying? Have your back. I grew up single parent. My mother worked crazy, went to college crazy. She got 2 master's degrees when I was a kid. I remember her taking me to classes with her. I had to sit in these college classes with her. Listen, and my dad, he was around, but that's all he was, around. You know what I'm saying? I love him still. So, don't get it twisted. I love him, but he just was not there. And I think that, the point that you guys are trying to make is that we have to create a more consistent normal. Make that more consistently normal, meaning father and mother present. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Closer knit families. I think that a lot of times, as a people, sometimes we have a tendency to make things trends instead of making them traditional staples within our community. Like we talk about the Montgomery situation, right? And you're talking about how people capitalize. And so we take it where we should be being educated from it, we make fashion statements out of it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Which is not in and of itself a bad thing. However, it has to be just a part of a bigger initiative to educate, educate the people. And one thing that I also noticed is that the mindset that we have sometimes, like it seems so funny to me. You guys might laugh about this. We talk about black power, we talk about black excellence, we talk about black, right?
Right.
But our Facebook profile names are Gucci, Barbie.
Yeah.
We're all these white lifestyle brands.
Yeah.
But we'll say they're copying us. They want to be like us. They want to do what we do. But as soon as we gain any type of notoriety, we become Mr. Gucci,
Yeah.
So Versace, Barbie baby, whatever. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's like we don't do enough education, because there was a doll that came out along the same time as when Barbie came out. It was a black doll. It's called Christie. They discontinued it because nobody was buying the black doll. Even the black families the black girls were wanting the white Barbie. And so this character ends up becoming folklore. Like we have never, seen it again. And so I think that a lot, our aspirations, in other words, I say all that to say sometimes in our mind, we aspire, the things that we aspire to do and be can sometimes be skewed by, I guess, maybe culture or what we see on TV or what we think is popular. And I say all that to say there's so many black brands, so many black initiatives, so many people. I have a friend, I bought some sneakers. I wish I could show them to you. I bought some sneakers that he created, you know what I'm saying? But the average kid is not going to wear them because they don't have a Nike check on it or a Jordan check on it.
Mike, I'm sorry, just because you went there, man. See, now you're gonna have me going deep sea diving, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the viewing audience of Let's Take a Walk.
No, please do.
I'm just going. All right, so you know how the trope is the most segregated hour ever is pretty much 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock on Sunday morning.
Mm.
That is because the black folks are in their church and white folks are typically in their church. The most segregated time ever is on Sunday morning. When we were talking about the Alabama incident, it just made me start thinking. And again, I love a multicultural church, so this is not a knock on that. But what are our white counterparts saying about what happened in Alabama?
Mm-hmm.
Have we heard from that community? What are they saying about what happened? And the reason why I said that, when you just said that we Barbie and Gucci and we should be black owned, I was thinking about the church. Is your pastor saying something about what happened?
Wow.
If you attend these churches and want to go to a church that is led by white leadership and has a huge white population or Hispanic, what are they saying about what happened in Alabama?
Right.
And I think that question needs to be asked around the world. What are they really saying about what happened? Were the ones that started this wrong? Should that have happened? Were the blacks that fought back justified? What are they really saying? And I think that answers your question a lot. A lot of times we gloss over, and you just said Gucci and all these things like that. But why are we attending places that really don't speak to what actually happens in our lives?
Wow. That's interesting that you said that, because anytime one of the questions that I always ask when I have a pastor or somebody in leadership in the church, that's one of the questions I ask them. How important is it to you how important is it for you to share yourself as it pertains to things like that happening? And how important is it for your people to hear how you feel about a certain situation? That's very interesting, because you're absolutely right. Sometimes we, as church people, we're conditioned to be Switzerland. We don't necessarily go right or left. We just kind of stand to the side and see as my wife would say, what color the wall is going to be. You know,
it's a lot of politics involved.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's classes too. Like, if you live in a gated community in a suburb somewhere, you're far removed from most things that the average person, did. So clearly your opinions on certain things will be totally different as well. But
But if that's not your reality, how can I say it? Some of them will not speak because that's not their reality,
facts.
and then it will place them in uncomfortable situations, because if I show empathy, will they believe that I'm empathetic towards them? If I say this, will they say, well, you're just saying that because you don't want to lose a member? So it's just like, what is it? I feel a lot of times that we as a culture don't deal with the trauma that we've gone through,
That's a fact.
because I think about it, our culture has been taught to be strong and walk through stuff. We never learned that you have to heal and deal. And when I say heal and deal, you need to identify your trauma, learn to heal from it, learn how to properly deal with it so that you can be more effective, and that part of trauma can no longer set you back or be a distraction for you. But if we keep trying to push through things and we never deal with it, you're going to have a cycle. You're either going to be a very angry and bitter person who, when the smallest thing happens, you get angry and you really don't even know why you're angry. Because it's a trigger.
Right.
There's something there that you've never dealt with. And the only way that you know how to deal or handle it is to react in anger.
Confrontational. Right. Right.
So those things are important, and we haven't learned, because as a culture, we have never had the opportunity to heal.
Well, I think that goes back to what Arthur was saying about family. You know what I'm saying? We have to teach her, like, when my son falls down, oh, don't cry. You're a big boy. You're a big boy. Walk it off. You know what I mean? And I'm definitely guilty. I don't say that, but for instance, if I see my son fall down, I immediately grab him up and I try to take his mind off of what just happened. You know what I'm saying? When maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should let him sit in that for a second, just to be able to connect.
Yeah. It's very important for us to, like I always say, sometimes we have adult children now, and our goal has always been to give them the tools that they need to be successful in life, because we won't always be here.
Right.
So with that, sometimes they are going to have to fall. We're going to just have to let them fall, but we'll be there with them to help them get up, and even to let them use their voice to explain how they felt when they failed.
Right.
But shine the light. You failed, but look what you also just did. You got back up.
That's a fact.
And those are the things that we don't do, because we're so quick to say, don't you cry, especially to our young boys. Men don't cry. So what happens when when most men get into situations, they don't learn how to verbalize how they're feeling because they try to suppress what they're feeling because men don't cry. Men provide, men are strong, and they don't deal with how they really feel on the inside. It's going to come out one way or the other.
That's a fact. I think that
Ooh.
go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
The you know, the yin and the yang, and that's why we talk about the family and the roles of parents. The father is there for a reason, and then the mother is there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And the roles are, I don't want to say defined, but there are certain characteristics that the father should portray to their sons and to their daughters. And then mother, certain characteristics that she should portray to her son and to her daughter. And when the roles are skewed, or one is not present, or we're not getting the full functionality of the family, that's when things start to decline. And I'm telling you, if we're operating in our full functionality, everything will work out. So when your child does fall, mom might have a different response than dad.
But she's
But
supposed to.
both responses are needed,
Yep.
so that child can learn and grow and be better. Men have to understand that we cannot stand still and keep crying about something, because we would never get anything done.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
but as a female, and I'm just saying, one of the characteristics is nurturing.
Yeah.
Then you can coddle your child. Hey, so it's gonna be okay, baby. This is my baby. Da, 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 da. But for the man, we have to understand, hey, dude, if you stop here, you won't ever get anything done. You can't learn, you can't grow from this if you stay here at this point, walling on the past. It happened. Got to get up, brush yourself off, and try again. Those are one of the things that we, as men, we have to foster that message as well. But as far as men crying, I cry. Yes, we're going to cry, but we can't stay in that mindset of woe is me, pity. We have to get up and try again. So both messages are needed. And if that message is coming from the mom as well, of hey, you can do it, get up, you can't stop, that's fine. But something is out of whack when both of those roles are not displayed in their full functionality.
But it's about balance.
Absolutely.
I feel like as a father, you can tell your son, you can't stay here, but you can also let him know it's okay to express how he feels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about balance, and it's about understanding your child.
That's a fact.
You know, I have two sons, and we have to deal with them in two totally different ways because they're not the same people, you know. So I feel that you can say, son, it's okay to express how you feel, but you can't let this stop you. You have, you build them up. You have everything you need in you to accomplish every goal. We always laugh. I always say, if my parents told me and my two brothers to go outside, flap our arms, we're gonna fly. We will go outside, flap our arms, knowing that we will fly.
Yeah,
and if we don't fly, it's not my parents' fault that we're not flying. It's somebody else's fault. But that's only because of the confidence that they instilled in us growing up. My mother is different with me than she is with my brothers. My mother is, you're going to be strong. I know you can handle this, But my father is, no, what do you need?
Yeah.
So you're right when you're saying it comes from two different, but on my brothers, he's like, nah, y'all men. With me, he told me I could stay at home forever. With my brothers, he's like, nah, bro, y'all gotta get that. So it really does. It's about balance. But I believe that it is definitely important for us to validate our children's feelings and teach them how to express it in a way where they understand, I have to keep going, but it felt good to let that out.
It's a fact. And like you said, you know, particularly when you have different, like I have a 27-year-old son. I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. Look at that.
Wow. Huge
Look
gap.
at that. You know what I'm saying? So the needs are totally, totally different. And I'm telling you, I bump my head a lot. Even now, I bump my head a lot. But again, like you said, there's an importance of family there. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that there are aspects of my childhood that I did not get. Like I admire Arthur in Corinthians, like on Kicking It with the Kellys. It's not just a platform, but that's your brother, bro. Like when I was a kid, somebody was messing with me. I didn't have nobody to go get. I had to get me. You know what I'm saying? But you got somebody to live your life with, do life with. You know what I'm saying? Go through things with. And you got your mom and your dad, and they both love you. They actually love you. Listen, I mean, I'm saying it funny, but for me, I'm about to cry. It's serious. Like that really means something to me. Like when I see that, I'm super, proud of you. And then the same thing with you, Kendra, when I hear you talk about your parents and how supportive they are and how, involved they are in your life, even now. Listen, that's amazing to me, because that just was not my reality.
Wow.
I'm quick to tell somebody I'm schooled at 40. I called my mama out on Facebook last week because I hadn't heard from her in 2 days. I know she called me by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's just, and my brother, it sounds like my brothers are like Arthur and his brothers. My brothers are 13 months apart.
Yeah, that's
So
how
and I mean, when I say those jokers still to this day stick together, my mother had a hole in her living room that we still don't know how the hole got there.
Oh, they did it. They did it.
They did.
I'll tell you right now. I know who did it. I know.
Yeah. But they won't rat each other out, and they in their 30s. I keep trying to slip them up just to get them in trouble, but they will not.
I can tell you right now.
But it's definitely, and even with my kids, I have 5 of them. When I say they are thick as thieves, and that togetherness is just something that's amazing. But it starts with the two, the mother and the father, and then it overflows into the community.
Right, and we have to make that normal. We have to make that, we have to make that normal.
And my Kendra, you were talking about feelings, and it's good to express your feelings. I'm a work in progress on that. My wife tells me that I don't understand you. You don't understand my feelings. My wife tells me so. Shout out to my wife Akia. I'm listening. It's coming at me in different waves here, but I have to recognize feelings. But again, I'm a product of how I grew up. My parents, my mom, my dad, are saved, and they believe that the Lord will provide, and we don't have to worry about anything. Just cast your cares on Him, and so I didn't grow up saying, if you were sick, it wasn't, ooh, how do you feel? It was you're healed by the stripes of Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. So, don't worry about nothing else. So when it comes to feelings and how you feel about some things, I struggle with that because I'm also, I'm very logical as well in my thing. If I was running in the house and I failed, okay, you should stop running.
Right. You should be running.
So I'm working on that, and so it wasn't embedded in me, but I'm understanding that now, that while I'm watching a movie and I see something that's going on, I start crying.
Yeah.
Right. And well, my dad, he cries a lot now. So it's always been in us.
It's just coming out.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, because I came up in a house where, I think I was in high school and I got in a little fight. And I told my dad I just knew I was going to get in trouble when I got home. My dad was like, "Did you get your lick in?" I was like, nah, Dad. He said, all right, well, it's done now. Next time, get your, so my family, we were taught to like go, you don't let anything hold you back and things like that. I learned when I got married that it was important to really acknowledge other people's feelings.
Mm.
I learned that from being in a new atmosphere with another person. When I got married, my husband was already a father of five. So I inherited five stepchildren. So I personally had to get adjusted to six different people where they only had to get adjusted to me. So where I may have been gun ho on everything, I had to learn that I was dealing with six different personalities and that it was important for me to listen, to try to understand even when I didn't understand,
Yeah.
and to validate their feelings, to not make
Mhm.
them feel. And it took me a minute to get there because I'm like you, I think logical. I was a psychology major. If it's great, it's great.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you run through the house and you fall, boom, why are you crying? You was running through the house,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
But there are moments and times where people don't need us to make things rational or logical for them.
Mm.
What they need is empathy because they deep down inside know the logistics of stuff. What they want to know is even if I bumped into that wall, will you console
Boy,
me?
you
That's a
console me.
fact.
Wow.
That's a
Wow.
fact.
That's a bar.
See, and in my growing up, it was totally opposite. I guess
Y'all
being
don't mind
where,
if I drink this. I'm
please do,
okay.
please do.
You saw I
Um,
got my water.
yeah, being growing up with, I guess where I lived, what I'm saying, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't bad, but it could potentially be bad at times. And so I think that my mother was very, very fearful for me
Mm.
being her only son. So she would tell me, you better not get in no fight. You better not do this or you're going to have to deal with me.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I allowed myself to be taken advantage of, even bullied, because I was more afraid of her than I
Mm.
was of the person and her finding out that I got in some type of scuffle.
Yeah.
So the biggest change that I had to make in my adult life, because I really had to break myself out of that.
Hmm.
So one of the biggest changes that I had to make in my life was to be able to stand up for myself
Hmm.
when clearly I'm being wronged or disrespected or taken for granted. I had to stand, and there were moments where things were contentious, but I guess the frustration in me as a child coming up now, I'm not no bad guy. I'm not no gangster or nothing like
Right,
that.
right.
However, that frustration puts me in a place where I don't like confrontation,
Hmm.
but I'm comfortable in it. If that makes sense.
No, okay, okay.
You know what
I
I'm saying?
feel
Like
it.
I'm comfortable in it. And but I was a crier too. And what I tell people all the time is that as far as as I'm concerned, like people think that crying is weak. But in my case,
Don't make me cry.
don't make me cry.
Don't
You're in
make me.
trouble when I start. You're not in trouble until I start crying.
Because I
Then,
blake out. I blake out.
you know what I
Wow,
mean?
wow.
So yeah, it's amazing the different dynamics that we experienced growing up or whatever.
But you know what? It's important to have platforms like this to at least
Yeah,
discuss it because it comes out. Now there may be someone who can, you know, identify with how you grew up or how Arthur grew up or how I grew up, but we need to talk about it and not suppress it because we can
Mhm.
learn from each other.
Right.
That's the part. We learn from each other, and then
That's a
I
fact.
can take bits and pieces from you. You can take bits and pieces from me, and then we learn how to be better.
That's a fact.
And when we learn how to be better for ourselves, then we can be better for our family, we can be better for our communities, and we can make the change that needs to be made in this society. The reason that the change is so difficult to come is because sometimes we don't want to admit that there are things within ourselves that need to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that we're not good people, but change is inevitable.
Yeah.
Right. That's a
You
fact.
can't, if you're not willing to change, you can't grow. There's no growth without some form of change. None of us look the way we may have our facial features from when we were babies and toddlers and stuff, but we had to grow and something
Right.
within us had to change.
That's a fact.
And the thing about life, we are always growing and learning and becoming new and different individuals. I'm not the woman that my husband married 11 years ago, and that's not necessarily a bad thing
Right.
because growth has taken place.
That's a fact. That is a fact. What? Okay. So, in your personal experiences, how does you? Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit, Arthur, but the church, or more specifically, religion, or belief in a higher power, so to speak, like the church. How do you see, based off your experience, how do you see church as it pertains to community and how we move in today's time? Has it been a help? Has it been a hindrance? Has it made it difficult? Has it made it easier? How has your faith, played a role?
Well, when Kendra was talking about changing, I thought about change is going to come, and then I thought about Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing
Renewing
of your mind. So when we speak of things that have happened, we have to understand that we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. It's some principalities, some rulers of darkness, and spiritual wickedness in high places, things like that. And so the church's mission is to get everybody in the ark, and I think that is the ladder to what Noah did in the flood, where only 8 souls were saved in the days of Noah. Only 8 got on the boat and were saved. Well, we got to get in the ark, and the ark of safety, and the church is that ark.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a lot of things that are penetrating the church in a lot of forms of politics. We already named one: politics, greed, money, things like that is affecting the community. When the bombing happened, in the church, and those little girls got killed. They were together. The church had that church had a mission. That back in those days, everyone was together. Everybody was on one accord. And right now, I think it's just so many things. A lot of people want titles. A lot of people want titles, so they're starting their own church, but they're affecting the community when they do that. Because if you see a church at 4, 5, 7 churches on every corner, where if you got a couple of members here, a couple of members there, nobody's together because that pastor wants a title. He wants to preach to his sect, that sect. So we got to come together on a lot of things. And I think a lot of division is happening, which affects the community, the overall community. So the church's role is to get everybody in the ark. And we can only do that if we come together on one accord. And that is economically, that is how we worship, that is how we are in the public, that is our views and our stances on certain issues. We have to be together. And if we're not together, we're just gonna fall. Without a vision, people perish.
I am big on authenticity. I am big on let your word be your word. Let the truth be the truth. Because one thing we can't change is God's truth. His truth is written in the Bible, and it's very plain and it's very clear. Like you said, we all need to be on one accord. And being on one accord, we cannot conform to the ways of the world in order to put butts in seats.
Mhm.
We cannot be afraid to speak truth because we don't want people to get upset with us. The truth can always be spoken in love. It absolutely can. The truth will always, and the way that it's presented, you can present truth to me, but as long as it's spoken in love, I can receive it. Even if I don't want to receive it at that moment, I'm gonna know you love me enough. And I
Right.
believe what's happening is that we're getting so stuck in, like you said, titles. We're getting stuck in titles. We're getting stuck in greed. We're getting stuck in what my church did this. My church did that. My church had the mayor here.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
church had the congressman here.
yeah.
We had these photo ops, like photo ops. I'm passing out food, make sure that you take a picture instead of just talking to the people that you're passing
Mm.
the food out to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What I believe, we are living in a society where people are crying for just love, where people are crying out to be seen, heard, not judged, where when they make a mistake, they not talked about all over the place, but they are loved on and taught the right thing. Because when we do that, you build a person up. We are supposed to build people up. We are supposed to love on our brothers and sisters the way that we love on ourselves. But if you can't even get that together in the body of Christ, you ain't gonna get that in the community. And
Wow.
so it all revolves in, why do you do it?
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you do it? What's your point? What's the purpose? Are you really going out into these communities to serve these people?
Yeah.
Or are you going out into the community to say that Mount Missionary Baptist Church gave out plates today?
Right.
Are you checking on them? Are you making, because people sometimes just want you to know that you care about them.
Mhm.
They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They don't just want you to take a picture with me and then you don't even remember them, or, people just want to know that they are cared for.
That's a fact. That's a
And
fact.
so I don't think anything will be effective until we get back in the day. You cared about, like, I think about growing up in the Baptist church, and I think about my aunt being in the kitchen cooking. I went with her. I felt like we went to everybody's house in Sarah County because she was taking them care gifts. If they were sick, she was taking them food. And my aunt had a car that she kept everything in, but she made enough space for me and for her. And we did that. So that's what's instilled in me. That's what I saw. That's what I know. And that's not what's happening now.
Mm. I feel there's anybody who, I take my hat off to anybody who chooses to put themselves in a position where they're leaders of men and women,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
pastors, captains of industry, you name it. Because you're kind of placed in a kind of a precarious position, because
mhm.
as much as you have to grow spiritually, there's also there's this aspect of business that has to take place
Mm,
in order for any
Yeah.
ministry to get to any effectively functioning level.
Yeah.
Um, so it's very hard because, and then you got we're all, as lay members, we're all looking at you. We watching your actions. We watching what you're doing. And while my intentions may be good, but just by the aspect of me saying, "Hey, we need money for this," or "We need
Mm.
money for that," that's being held against me. You know what I'm saying? As a leader, oh, here to go the pastor asking for money again. Da 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 da. So it's like it's very tough, because most times we're only going by the eye test, and if
Yeah.
we're not necessarily in the inner circle to the point where we can hear actual conversation and actual things being taken care of, all we can do is assume or, you know, judge by what we by what we think we see. And you know, I think that that's you know, that's a tough position to be in. But I'm speaking for people. I'm not talking about for every ministry, but I'm talking about for the ones that have decent and righteous intention. I'm not talking about the others. I'm talking about the ones that that's a really tough position on both sides because it's hard watching it too because
Yeah.
you respect this person, but you see them doing things that you perceive to be disrespectful,
Right.
even though their intentions, you know, their intent and their goal, you know, and goals are good, you know. So it kind of I guess it kind of goes both ways. I hope I'm making sense. I
No,
just
no, no, no.
No, you make perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Kendra's blueprint of the church is real when she just said her and her aunt were in the kitchen and then they were bringing everybody food that could not make it out to service and all those things like that. That's the blueprint. So if your church isn't if your church isn't helping entrepreneurs, having seminars, or has an active ministry where they're teaching people how to build their credit and all these things, or helping barbers, beauticians, and all these things. If your church isn't doing these things, I really don't want to go to your church. I'm just being serious because you're not helping the community. So if
right.
your church is community based, you have to help the community, and your parishioners they have to live in this community. And there's a lot of things that are going on in our communities that the church isn't addressing, and we have to address a lot of these things. So what are our ties really going to?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
What is it really providing for the members of this church? And if we say it's a business, you have community centers, you have all these things. Are you looking for government funding? Because then if you bring the government in so you don't have to pay taxes within your church and things like that, then are you just going by what the government sets for their standard of religion?
Yeah.
So we got to be of the world, but not in the world. We got to be in the world, but not of the world. I should say. So a lot of things. So like I said, you heard it here. If your church isn't doing these things, now if your church is small and just starting out, I got you. But I'm talking about for the global aspect of the church.
Yeah. I think one of the best aspects of my life was growing up in the country. I really do. Like growing up in the country, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to go back over there and live over there because I like having food line right across the street from my house. But growing up there was great because you would have gone to my home church. I remember there was a situation where one of the families in our home church was about to lose their farm, so the church bought the land.
Yep.
And what they did was give them the house and the land that they needed to farm, but the remainder of the land they sold it to other members in the church so that they could have homes.
There we go.
Mm.
Yep.
So it's like you help the family, and then you also help even more families.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was just that barter system, that unity, that's when don't I believe, because my husband is a minister and he works in leadership. Being a leader is very hard, but it's and it's sad that we live in a time where you can be a good leader but still aren't trusted because of the damage or the trauma from another leader.
Mm-hmm.
But that is where you just have to have faith and ask God to lead and guide you and give you the spirit of discernment
That's a fact.
to know, because leaders do have, it's a lot of pressure to be a leader. It's a lot of pressure to lead God's people. It's a lot of pressure to be a shepherd. But I believe when you follow God, when you operate and move in integrity, then has already positioned you and made provisions for the vision to come true. You just have to be true to God. That's your only job, is to be true and lead, like I said, in authenticity. And I believe that's what people are looking for, but a lot of people aren't at the place where they can trust it because it's been so much damage that has taken place.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
interesting.
I'm like you. I want to see what you're doing. I
Yeah,
don't just want to
yeah,
hear you preach a good sermon.
yeah,
I need to see what you're doing.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I saw somebody post about a month ago, maybe. They posted modern day church wants preachers, not pastors.
Oh,
But
You know what I'm
that's a
saying?
fact. That's a fact.
And that listen.
That's a fact.
And I think that's that's a lot that has a lot to do with it. I think I mean, like I said, it's an interesting dynamic because culture changes, evolves, and so while the word remains standard and will never change and is solid in and of itself, there still has to be some sort of shifting that takes place. Like
yeah.
I can't come into the church with Jesus sandals on and a and a burlap sack as my, you know what I'm saying? So like I said, that's why I said it can be very tricky. It can be very tricky. And then you have people who are ironclad traditionalists who is certain things that they will not abide by. You know what I'm saying? You come in there with pants on, Kendra, you getting kicked out.
Well,
No
I'm getting
questions
kicked
asked.
out because I
Go
don't
put your
wear a dress
skirt
every
on.
Sunday.
Go put your skirt on and then you come back, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm getting kicked out the church.
right. Arthur, you come in there with an earring on, you getting kicked out. We don't play that. You know what I'm saying? Nothing pertaining to a woman. You're not going, So it's like, it's a lot of things that it's just tricky. It's
It's
tricky.
just
It can be
it's
tricky.
the society that we live in. But my overall thing is always just be a good person.
Right. That's a fact.
My mother always taught us, when you do what's right, you've done your job.
That's a fact.
When you
I,
do what you know is right, then you've done your job. And I mean, I can't worry about what other people think, what they say, what they do. If I know that what I did, excuse me, was right, I've done my job.
yeah. I heard LL Cool J yesterday. I heard LL Cool J yesterday doing an interview, and he said something very interesting. He said he wants to be known as good and not nice. And what he meant by that was he gave an analogy. He said, if I see a old lady getting jumped and getting her purse stolen, and I run over and I defend her and I put that man in a chokehold and I get the purse back and I black his eye and I beat him down, that's good. I'm a good person for defending the old lady, but to beat the man is not nice.
I was not nice to him.
You know what I'm saying? And that's just that's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at things.
Hey, Mike. To cap off what you said, first I want to say, Kendra, you okay? Because I didn't know if were you chucking on the wall. My bad. My bad. I was trying to say something.
You did not have to call me out.
Listen, I was trying to play it off. I was trying to push past.
No, I didn't know if I needed to, if we needed to do CPR, the Heimlich or something. I don't know.
Wow.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure she was good. But to cap off what you both said, and I think to make it to come full circle, and we were talking about the truth, and I think Kendra just said, as long as they were just speaking the truth. I think, and I just got to read this. I couldn't remember the truth off the top, so I just wanted to make sure I had it right. 2 Timothy 4:3 and 4, King James Version. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers. So you just said preacher. Then they're looking for preachers, right? They're teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables. So you said that they're looking preachers, and I think it said, how can they hear without a preacher, and how can he preach unless he be sent? Right. So we have a lot of churches now that are not looking for sound doctrine. They're looking for the theatrics of the preaching, and fables, and what is preached is more so books out of Barnes and Nobles instead of the scripture. I don't know I don't want to know what Elon Musk is doing. I don't want to hear what John Maxwell is doing. You know what I'm saying? I want to hear what the scriptures had to say about the situation or the subject. So don't if you honestly, I'm gonna tell you another church that I'm not going to. If you reading out of one of these other books, I'm not going to your church. If you have another book up there with you, I'm not listening. I'm sorry. You heard this from me now. I'm not. I'm sorry. If anybody does that, I'm sorry. I just won't be there. All right, so
come on, Arthur. That's a little bit. Wow.
He is wrong. He gets out close to the end, and he's being real wrong.
Yeah. Wow. That's wow.
Yeah. But I agree. I totally agree.
We are on Let's Take a Walk. I'm sitting here with Mr. Arthur Kelly and Miss Kendra Berry. We have been on an hour and a half. And I want to be mindful of their time. So I'm gonna just try to like he said, bring it full circle.
Thanks to my grandma's watching. Hello, grandma. I don't know.
Yeah, shout out.
That's my grandma.
Okay, hey,
that's my grandma. Yeah. I told y'all they support everything. My mother.
There we go. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, grandma.
Listen, my last name is Hardy too. My that's my. So we're gonna have to talk soon.
Yeah. That's my grandmother, Effie Hardy. I have to give her a shout out. That's why she said grandma's watching, so I can shout her out.
I love it.
Well, my grandmother's last name is Hardy too. We're gonna have to talk. We're gonna talk. But yeah, we talked about community, more specifically faith in community. We talked about the Montgomery situation and parenting and home life and how it impacts community. And I definitely have different life experiences. We all three of us do, and it was great to hear and interesting to hear from the two of you aspects that I had I was not never been really familiar with. So I really appreciate you guys being so transparent in this time. It really allows me to be transparent. You know what I mean? So I'm going to tell you that God is so great that he allows things like this to take place and knowledge to be and experiences and nuggets to be shared amongst the people. This is something that I never imagined that I would be doing. And when I say what I said earlier about kicking it with the Kellys and everything like that, I really mean that in my heart, because that's not something that's never been something that I could ever really imagine. And as far as Kendra, the movement that you have and the understanding and the sympathetic and empathetic way you go about your business and the things that you do, it's inspiring, because it's like the two of you carry traits that I'm weak at. I don't have it. But to see, see you guys do, what you do. It's amazing to me, and I hope that, and I pray that you guys never take for granted the amount of influence that you actually have, and the actual gift that you have. I feel like there's a difference between talents and gifts. I think that talent is something that God gives you, that he gives you, but the gift is the impact
Mm.
that the people make, that you make on the people. That's the gift. Because I've heard plenty of good singing where after they're done, there's not a peep. But then you have somebody who may not have a lesser voice, and they tear the church, and they tear the church up. You know what I'm saying? So, nurture that gift. And again, I take my hats off to both of you. I want to pose this last question for the two of you. It's a question that I've asked both of you before, and I ask all my guests anyway. So I'm going to give you a chance to answer this question again. Maybe your answers have evolved since the last time we spoke. So here we go. The question is, what would have to happen in your life, if it has not happened already, for you to consider your life a success? What does success look like for you specifically?
You can go first, Arthur.
Oh wow. That was good. You trying to get me back for talking about that water. You almost drowning, but it's all good. It's almost good. Nah. Mike. Well, first I want to say thank you again for having me. That you thought fitting enough to have me on your show. I'm crazy. And I'm gonna speak my mind. So I appreciate you, man. And I want to tell you this: you are doing a phenomenal job at what you do, and you keep doing that, man. And everything that you touch, I just pray that it turns to gold for you. I'm just going to leave it with this quote, and I think this sums up my success journey. I have found that through this quote, once the work has begun, never leave it until it's done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. And I'm laboring to do a good work, and I'm not going to stop until it's done. And I hope that I hear one day, well done, thy good and faithful servant. You have been faithful, and que sera, sera.
Okay.
I want to say I have totally enjoyed being with you guys tonight. It has been so much fun and so insightful. Thank you, Mike, for thinking of me. Your platform is just like freaking amazing. And I'm in agreement with Arthur. I pray that God just continues to bless it and bless you and open up doors that you didn't even know existed.
Wow.
Because this truly has the potential to just start the conversation. Yeah. Sometimes all you need for someone just to start the conversation.
Yeah. Right.
And you'll be amazed at how much work can get done just from the start of a conversation. And so kudos to you, and thank you for including me, little girl from Sarah County, on your platform. I truly, truly have enjoyed you guys today. The only thing what success is to me, or what has changed, is I want God to truly get the glory out of my life. When people look at me, I would hope that they would see a person who genuinely cares for others and who genuinely wants the best for others. I really want to do, at this season of my life, my goal is to do the work that the Lord created me to do when I was in my mother's womb, whatever that is. be it large or small, you know, whatever it is, whether I work in a pie shop and I smile and make
Mm,
other people smile, whether he puts me on platforms, whatever it is that he created Kendra Danielle Berry to do, I want to do that. And if I do that, I'm successful in every way.
Wow.
That's my level of success. I don't need a pocket full of money. I don't need cars, notoriety. I don't need any of those
wow,
things. I want to please, I want God to smile and say my child has completed her assignment.
wow,
Wow. My and my
wow.
yeah, you definitely said a mouthful. You took the words. um, my idea of success and is bridging the gap
Mm,
between what I'm supposed to be doing and doing it.
mm,
What
Mm.
success is for me.
wow.
And then you're successful because that's what you're doing.
Amen.
I
That's
appreciate it.
absolutely what you're doing.
You made it, man.
Yeah.
So, so as a final thought, do either of you have any events or any initiatives coming up that you want to promote or invite people to?
Well, I'll just say check me and my brother out. Kicking it with the Kellys. We typically on Thursdays. During the summer months, we take a little hiatus. We on some. It's our show. We get to do what we want. So
Right.
when you see us on, just click and start watching. We talk about everything. Similar to this conversation that we had. We are just giving our point of view and allowing you to comment and speak and anything you want to share. I will say that we have a venture coming up, which will be coming out pretty soon. It's something that we are definitely passionate about, and you'll hear about it a little bit more. Now, and then this is not like the building fund where they say we building something and then it'd be years. No, this is actually this is going to happen, and it will be very soon. So be on the lookout for some big news coming from Kicking It with the Kellys. All right.
Yes, sir.
I will be making some big announcements in January as far as creative youth coaching goes. So be on the lookout for that. We're kind of working on everything. Me and my business partner behind the scenes from now until the end of the year, and then we're gonna kick off running. So y'all be on the lookout for reels and posts and just the little things that we're doing just to make that difference in the community and just being us. So yeah.
Love it.
Nice. Well, I want to thank you guys again for taking the moment out to talk to us, because I know you could be doing a gazillion other things. But I appreciate you taking a moment to sit down with me. I definitely learned a lot, and I know that the people who took the time to watch learned a lot. And as much as we just spoke here today, I feel like we still just kind of scratched the surface. We didn't even really deep dive, but I think that it was still effective. Like, as you said, Miss Kendra, sometimes it's important just to spark the conversation.
Yeah. I think we should do this again. It was fun.
Absolutely.
This was fun.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed it, man.
I find that these panels are a lot more fun, and like I say, it's just that diversiveness is just really just being able to bounce things off of one another, and people from other different parts of the country and different upbringings, different backgrounds. It's always interesting. I really enjoy it. So definitely.
Yeah, and don't worry, Kendra. My people are about to contact your people in
I don't know what's ever gonna come out your mouth. I gotta be prepared, man.
Yo, and this is what this is all about. This is partly what this is all about. Making building contacts between people who wouldn't ordinarily cross paths. You know what I'm saying? So this, for me, this is dope.
Yeah.
You know, here
It's
we
awesome.
are. We're all, you're both in Virginia,
Yeah.
but have never,
Yeah.
you know, had
Don't
the
worry.
guts to
Don't.
cross paths.
Hey, well, thank you, Mike, for introducing us, and we'll take it from here.
That's all right. And look, I didn't say this earlier, but my daughter is going to ODU.
Oh wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
What is she going to study?
I believe
It's okay. My bad. I put you on the spot. It's all good. It's all good.
No, I think it's something with computers. I think.
Okay. Got you.
I think I'm gonna say computers. I go with computers.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, again, I want to thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate you. I wish you much success in everything that you endeavor to do, even the things that you have not even, thought of. And this is, as I've told both of you, this is an open invitation. Anytime you want to promote, anytime you want to talk, anytime there's something that you want to put out there, please feel free, let me know. And I would definitely, make the time and make schedule open for us to do what we do.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I had fun with you.
Yes, Lord.
Okay.
y'all have a great night and an awesome weekend.
You too. Y'all be good, guys.
So there you have it, man. Another great interview with a couple of other great guests. I can't even talk. It's so interesting to hear people's perspectives and hear people's personal experiences and things that they've experienced and gone through. It's always dope. Sometimes I feel so out of place compared to some of the people that I've sat down with, but it's a good thing, man. And I appreciate them, and I appreciate you for coming on, for watching. And I hope that you encourage others to watch the playback, and you watch the playback again too. And please go to YouTube, hit the like button and the bell icon. Trying to get our subscribers up and subscribe to the platform. And we also have stars. They're like 99 cents a star. Break a brother off to continue to build this platform. But as I always encourage you guys, if there's something that God is leading you to do, if there's something that keeps you up at night, if there's something that you know that God is wanting you to do, that has a vision for you to do, step out. The word is go. Go now. Go now. As you go forth, people will see that you mean business and that you're serious, and God will make provision, and He'll bring you and you'll be surprised. He'll bring you into the presence of people that will supremely bless you in whatever vision or whatever movement you're trying to do. Trust me, I am a living witness of that very fact. So with that being said, I would like to tell you guys have a great night, an awesome weekend. I wish you much blessings, and let's take a walk.